let's talk about Trump's meeting with Mark Rutte and the NATO CEO and his statement about Russia. The big announcement about Russia, 50 days to wrap up the Ukraine war, to agree to a ceasefire. I'm not really clear as to what the 50 days, the ultimatum, really is all about. But Russia has 50 days to solve this, or to come to some sort of an agreement with Ukraine. And
so what's up, guys? Welcome back to this channel. So yeah, I did want to kind of go into this whole Russia 50 days thing. Some sort of agreement. Rutte was in Washington, D.C., glazing Trump and getting ready for the money laundering, allegedly, weapon laundering, allegedly, in my opinion, that's going to get ready to happen. And I'll have another episode talking about that as well. But without further ado, we're just going to, I am not affiliated with the Duran. I always make sure to say that. I just feel like I should say that, right? But one day I would love to talk to the Duran. But before we get there, guys, thank you for everybody who is watching. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell. I really, really enjoy making these videos for you guys. Without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into the clip.
And or else 100% tariffs, maybe, perhaps. Weapons sold to NATO, and then NATO will give the weapons to Ukraine. We have some talk about what kind of weapons these are going to be, but nothing is really definite either with the weapons as well that are going to be sold to NATO and given to Ukraine. And this is a difficult process as well. I've been reading on the whole process of selling weapons to Ukraine and then selling weapons to NATO, then giving them to Ukraine. There are all kinds of obstacles and hurdles to that as well, including the fact that there are no weapons and there is no money. But anyway, Alexander, your thoughts on everything Trump said yesterday?
This is one of the strangest decisions and statements I have ever heard coming from the US government, and I've heard some and listened to some very strange decisions in my lifetime. It's one of those things where, everything looks in the distance, fairly clear, and then you go up close, it all sort of dissolves, because none of it actually makes a huge amount of sense. Let's talk about the weapons first, because that's the one that I think the Russians were most interested in. They were less worried about the sanctions, but they were very, they have been thinking about the weapons. So Trump, we were given sort of information leading up to this big announcement that Trump was really furious with Putin, that he was going to announce deliveries of more weapons, that he would actually, for the first time himself, exercise his drawdown authority, that he'd reversed Pete Hegseth's decision to stop and pause supplies of weapons, and all of that kind of thing. So then we get a meeting in which Mark Rutte, as you said, is there. And Mark Rutte played the usual role that he always now plays as flatterer in chief. It was really quite, it was grisly watching, I think. It really was. Trump himself, I thought, looked rather subdued throughout the whole announcement. But anyway, let's not waste too much time on that. So
actually, why don't we, because I am going to go back to this clip, but I want to see that Trump-Rutte interview because, with this rather subdued type of thing, yeah, Trump-Rutte. Hold on. I do feel like something's just not right with Trump sometimes. I do. This is, and this is not a conspiracy channel. I just have thought processes that when he says that, I have felt like that about Trump on random occasions.
You have to test it. Can I add one thing, and that is about President Trump, because you came in office in January. On the 12th of February, you had your first phone call with Putin. I think you did exactly what I hope you would do. That is breaking the deadlock, starting the conversation, because you have to test him. I know Putin very well from the days when I was Prime Minister in the Netherlands. You have to test him. And you did this, and you really gave him a chance to be serious, to get to the table, to start negotiations.
It's annoying because you can't hear this, and I honestly do not feel like editing. I hope
this about President Trump, because you came in office in January. On the 12th of February, you had your first phone call with Putin. I think But you breaking the deadlock was crucial because you had to start that process. And you were the only one who was able to do that.
I think we'll get it done.
I'm not seeing the whole thing to know, obviously, and it's like...
This is really big. This is really big. You called me on Thursday that you had taken a decision. And the decision is that you want Ukraine what it needs to have to maintain, to be able to defend itself against Russia, but you do want the Europeans to pay for it, which is totally logical. And this is building on the...
Yeah, the problem about it, it's not that logical, but let me just see one more thing. I think, stop playing that. I think I can't watch RT in America. Stop it. Okay.
On Thursday that you had taken a decision.
Okay, so
and
we
the
can watch
decision
the
is...
same clip over and over again. But I just wanted to see, when he said, about Trump being like kind of subdued, I can understand why he says that. It's definitely a different feeling with the second time around. It's definitely not the first time around. So I just wanted to look for an example, because I can understand why anybody would make that statement.
We're now told that the agreement, that the deal that's been done is that NATO will buy weapons from the United States, which it will supply to Ukraine. But we're not told which weapons. There's some talk about Patriot missiles and Patriot missile systems. And Trump said that one country is ready to send 17 missile systems, batteries, individual launchers, individual missiles. It's all very vague, to Ukraine. And, and that this agreement has been reached and all is well, and that this is really what this whole business with Pete Hegseth and doing the pause was all about. It was basically preparing the ground for this decision. The point is, NATO doesn't buy weapons. At least it has never done so up to now. NATO is a bureaucracy that manages an alliance in which the individual members of the alliance, Britain, France, Germany, Spain, Italy, they buy their own weapons. They buy their own weapons either from their domestic manufacturers or they buy them from the United States. And increasingly, in fact, they buy them from the United States. So this is really something quite new. There is no document, there's no signed agreement. We didn't actually have some kind of a contract to sign an agreement here. And so this has all been set up in this way. There's no budget. We're not being given any budget for how much money NATO is going to be provided to buy these weapons. And once the budget is declared, where are the sources of the funding going to come from? Now, by far, the biggest contributor to NATO, and I'm talking about its running costs, is the United States itself. So is it the United States going to give money to NATO to buy weapons from the United States? That would be quite an astonishing thing. One presumes not. So presumably there is going to be a group of European countries that are going to buy these weapons through NATO from the United States. Now, that already looks to me like an extremely complex process.
How does that work?
How does it work? As I said, there have to be agreements. There has to be some kind of a bureaucracy or structure to supervise this setup. This is going to take several months at least to work out. And then, as I said, you've got to agree the budget, you've got to agree the funding, you've got to come up with the sources of the funding. We are very far from that. I mean, this is just Rutte and Trump talking about doing this. But as I said, until it actually happens, I wonder whether this is even going to work out. And that we've had.
So the thing is, I'm a little bit more cynical than the Duran, I guess, because my thing is actually, I just believe that they're just going to give them the weapons for free and just like write up something and put like the word NATO in it a few times. And then I mean, who's going to know, right? As far as the American people, who is going to come and say, hey, wait a second, are you giving away our weapons for free? And then you'll have a round of American propagandists for Trump who will say, well, at least we didn't pay for them. They're still from our stockpile. Nobody's going to pay for them. So it's still the Biden, the Biden process, if you will. This is a speculation of mine, but it's just the one that makes sense. Why would the EU, any country in the EU, buy the weapons and give them to Ukraine? It doesn't make sense. NATO is just the secretary, the bureaucracy organization for these different allied countries. Meaning it's just, if you will, the secretary. So the secretary is going to buy the weapons? It doesn't make sense. So there's either a weapon laundering going on or some sort of money laundering going on, allegedly, in my opinion. But it's still the Biden process. It's still the Biden policy to me of giving away our stuff. We are still depreciating our stockpile, which, I'm at the point where I was just that I've been screaming about since back in 2022. And it's just more of that. I mean, because even if to say, okay, we're going to sell them the weapons, I don't even think we have the weapons made. I don't know. But if we make weapons, we already have a low, our stockpile is low. Now, maybe we would take from somebody else if we had a problem. I don't know how that would work, but you would think that we would make more weapons for us. So it's the same thing, but with a lot more words. And these are the propagandists that I'm talking about. It's they lied to their base. All look, whether all right, let me not do this to this person because maybe he just doesn't understand how it goes. But the thing is, you are a journalist. How do you not understand how it goes? So he says, breaking: NATO will be purchasing $10 billion in arms in the United States in a deal negotiated by Trump per Axios. No American dollars will be sent to Ukraine, and Europe is finally paying us. That's not what's happening. This is how it's done. That is not what's happening. Dick Tracy has a headline coming out saying, breaking: Donald Trump has privately encouraged Ukraine to step up deep strikes into Russian territory. Now, obviously, this is a headline I'm reading. Even asking Volodymyr Zelensky whether he could strike Moscow if the U.S. provide long-range weapons, according to the people debriefed on the discussions. So this is coming from the Financial Times. Okay, and Michael Tracy, I will say, is not going to source this if he didn't check it out himself. This is a journalist with, a credible journalist, okay? I didn't vote for this, cry the anti-establishment podcasters. Well, what did you vote for? When did Trump ever articulate a tangible policy for ending the war in Ukraine? He just demanded to be restored to power. Then he'd wave a magic wand and somehow the war would end in 24 hours. And so here we are today. And this is, it's the same thing. Now, that coming from the Financial Times is huge. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. I'm not here to not to say speculate, but I can't tell the future. But the fact that it's even being talked about, this will involve us in something that we do not need to be involved in. I don't know. When it comes to Ukraine, I just seriously could not understand what the plan is. But what I know the plan is to end this war. I'll see you guys at the next one.